Welcome back to the Valley to Peak Nutrition Podcast. It is Lindsay and I with a Q&A this week. There's an old CD. Did you ever listen to Mace? He was like a rap guy. He was gone for a long time. Then he came back, and one of his opening songs was called Welcome Back. He was like, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I feel like we should have that for you on this episode.
Thanks.
We're back for a Q&A. We have compiled, we've got a grand total of, 6, 9, another 8. You're looking at 17 questions, which we are not doing all today. We'll break them up in probably 4 or 5 separate podcasts throughout the end of the year, but we're going to do the first block of those this week, which is compiled of 4. So here we go. Question 1.
How important is variety in the diet? I tend to eat a lot of the same things every day.
This is a good question. So I'll answer this in a couple of different ways. When you look at, and part of the context of this is this person went on to basically say that they are eating literally the same things every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And you have kind of 2 groups that I've seen since we've been working with people. You have people who cannot stand the idea of that. They want something brand new, fresh, and hot every day. And then you have other people who could cook one thing and eat it the entire week. Why are you laughing?
Because looking back over the last 11 or so years, I can tell I could write out the things that you went in a phase of eating. So I could tell the lunch that you used to have when you worked at the hospital. I can tell the post-dinner food that you used to make before we had kids. I can tell you what it is now. There used to be this whole omelet concoction. So, and that is, you gladly would eat those same things all the time, to the point that I could probably, at this point, make it because it is so repetitive for years and years and years.
Would you please start making it? That would actually make it even easier, because a lot of the reason I do that is because it's so easy. I am curious though, and this is a little bit of a side trail. What has been the least appetizing thing that I've made? What's been the thing that seems like, yeah, that's a good idea?
The least appetizing, and I'll just let everyone else's mind go as to why it is you used to get purple cabbage. Is that okay? I had a purple cabbage every week, and you'd have it, and then you would quarter it, I think, and you would boil that cabbage in that really old pot we had without a lid, and you would boil it, or without a handle. You'd boil it, which smells not awesome, and then you would eat it, and then drink the juice of it, and slurp it down. And then the next night you use the other, I think it was a quarter a night that you would do, and you would be miserable. So other than the smell of it going in and going out and all of that, it just, you were sick to your stomach every single night that you had this giant cabbage before you would go to bed.
I regret even asking you. You know what? Thank you for the years that you put up with me. And it's 12. We've been together almost 12 years. I mean, married for 11, but together 12. Yeah, happy anniversary to you. Back to the question. Sorry for the side trail. There's two lenses you've got to view this through. One is macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. One is micronutrients, which are, basically your vitamins and your minerals. As long as you are covering your bare minimum needs in both of those departments, variety does not matter. You can eat the exact same thing every single day. Now, it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really easy to cover your macros, assuming that it's enough. Carbs, your proteins, your fats. It's going to be really difficult to cover your micros, your vitamins and your minerals, eating the exact same thing every day, because as elementary as it can sound, the whole eat the rainbow idea, the reason it's a rainbow is because it's composed of different nutrients. And so you have families of colors, red, yellow, green, purple, whatever, that contain specific nutrients that other families of colors don't have. You have families of foods certain vegetables versus fruits, for example, that contain a certain profile of vitamins, minerals, etc., where other ones don't. So, that is why variety can be important because it does, ensure that you're covering all of your bases there. However, if you're meeting your bare minimums in both of those, variety is really not important at all. I think an easy one thing that I would throw in here as a way, a couple tips I would throw in here as a way to ensure that you're covering those bases without getting too complicated to where you feel like you're having to meal plan is I'll give you two tips, I guess. The first one would be just make it a goal of yours to include a vegetable in at least one meal every day and make that vegetable a different color, right? So when you go to the grocery, buy something purple, buy purple cabbage, buy eggplant, buy something orange, get some carrots, get some sweet potatoes, buy something green, get some broccoli, get some asparagus, buy something yellow, get some yellow squash, get some mushrooms. Whether that winds up as vegetables in a fajita quesadilla or a soup or just like radiantly green to where it almost deserves a radioactive sticker on it because you don't know what else to do with it but to eat it raw. If you just kind of make it a central goal to have something, you're probably going to be pretty dang close to covering your bases there. Second thing that I would say is to create a system with your family meals to where you have the same type of cuisine on a given day of the week. So like Mondays could be every night's every Monday's, tacos. Every Tuesday is stir fry. Every Wednesday is the grill. And when you're thinking about those, thinking about how to add those veggies in. So it could be make some fajita veggies to go with your tacos. You could do some sauteed mushrooms. You could do chopped up homemade pico with pineapple, which we do a lot. And just by having those two kind of central ideas, you're probably going to be covering your basics on that. Now, the only other thing I'll throw in here is this is a question we've gotten a lot, we've never really addressed. What about something like athletic greens, AG1, a powdered fruit and vegetable mix and concoction? And I'd say I'd put this like middle ladder, meaning not going to be as good as eating fresh, better than doing nothing at all, but not something I probably would want to rely on. Two main reasons. One, bioavailability, which is a fancy word to say you're never going to absorb as much nutrition from whole foods as you are. I'm sorry, you're never going to absorb as much nutrition from a supplemental form as you are whole foods. And then the second would be one of the major, major, major advantages of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, all of these typical like foods that we've been told to eat so long is the the roughage and the fiber content within them, which has innumerable health benefits that range from driving your cholesterol down, prevention of colon cancer, to a wide variety of other things that you do not get by trying to mix it inside of a powder. And so if that's all you can do, then I guess it's all that you could do, but I'd try to encourage you, to be explorative with it and make a soup, make a stew, make a sauce and blend it all together to where it just tastes like a marinara or a salsa or something like that. But if you can get it in, it's definitely beneficial and worth it. But I understand that it can be tedious sometimes.
I don't know if this is within the same question, but, you know, is that similar to someone saying, "Oh, my kids don't eat fruits and veggies, but they'll down a smoothie in a second, so I put all their fruits and veggies in a smoothie." Is that kind of the point, or is it still good? I mean, because that's not a powder, right? It's the actual fruit and veggie going into a smoothie, so is that the same?
Yeah, I'd be let me think about this. I'd be okay with that, right? Because you are essentially getting a nutrient. Now, the thing that differs here, what you should hear is that is not juicing, right? Juicing, you are basically just getting the sugars from the fruit. And part of the value and the difference between eating fruit and drinking a smoothie or a juicer thing is that your blood sugar will spike and your energy will spike and rapidly drop, whereas the fiber content within the whole fruit prevents that from happening, right? So juicing is way different than you taking an actual banana and an actual apple, throwing it in a blender and hitting spin. That same thing is also what's different than you buying naked juices or these store-bought bottled juices. I don't care if they're labeled organic. I don't care if they're labeled all I don't care what they're labeled. There is no fiber content in them if it's just juiced, and you are missing one of the main values that are found within those. So, keep that in mind. Now, the third thing too, and I'm gonna loop in. Oh boy, I might lose some parents on this. I'm gonna loop in those little applesauce squeeze packets and little go squeegee things that people squeeze out of a packet and into your kid's mouth. The other value of fruits and veggies is their ability to provide satiety. They fill you up in very few calories in a single meal, and they allow that feeling to stay around for a longer period of time. Those little pouches don't provide that. They will satiate your kid for a little bit, but then an hour later, they're gonna want something else, and then an hour later, they're gonna want something else. So if you keep pacifying that appetite with little bits, they're not gonna want dinner, and so you hear all the time, like, parents say, "Oh, I just can't get my kid to eat dinner." And I'll say, "Well, tell me about the rest of their day." "Well, we're really busy." And so I give them a bag of these all natural puffs, and I give them an organic granola bar, and I give them an organic squeegee banana packet. It's like, well, the kid's appetite is shut off because you're pacifying it. He never wants a meal and he's just snacking all day. And you're ultimately missing the goal. Let's say, well, what's the remedy? Stop feeding them those things. Just give them an actual meal.
Or I think you're not criticizing the fact that there's applesauce in a pack or that there's some convenient way to feed your kid. You're saying, like, fruit leather, for example, we've been making all this fruit leather with these plums at the end of the road, right? They can down an unhealthy amount of that fruit leather and still be just as hungry as we were, but if you had given them 2 or 3 plums, they're like, "Oh, okay, my belly's full." So you're not saying that the ingredients are necessarily wrong in those things. I mean, sometimes they're not great, right? But you're saying, why not to give them foods that will also satiate longer? It's not about what it is as much as, like, the form in which it's in can be helpful for having good habits.
Well, I think we're saying one and the same thing. I think the example of drinking juice or even drinking a smoothie versus eating it is that we're missing one of the major values of fruits and veggies, which is their ability to satiate us. And it's been long established that the more controlled your calories are, the more your weight is going to line up with what you want it to be. And weight, even though weight is somewhat of an independent marker of health, there is still a really strong correlation between body weight being too high and a lot of chronic diseases, right? And so the whole goal is if you increase your intake of these things, you're not going to feel hungry, snacky, starving, all these words that generally drive us to eat, which we generally want convenience, which is generally higher in calories, which generally leads to some of these outcomes that we don't necessarily want. So yes, I think we're saying one and the same thing, which is as often as you're able, you want to try to eat these things in their whole form, but be creative in how you offer them so you don't feel like you're just gnawing on a raw piece of cauliflower, right? There's a lot of ways you can make these palatable, get them in, still get the value. And again, if a powdered mix is better than nothing, then yeah, have the powdered mix. But the whole value here is that you want to meet those quote micronutrient needs, not just because you're getting your vitamins and minerals, kids, but because of the value the foods they come from provide you separate from the micronutrition. That makes sense. And don't let me catch you in my plum spot. It's like the only thing that we've got going. The tree actually grows on someone else's property, but it grows over the road, so we pick the backside. Little pro tip. All right, number 2.
How important is nutrient timing when it relates to protein intake? Does protein quality matter?
Good question. The timing of your protein intake. So let me back up. Context to this would be, I would imagine, for years, timing with protein has basically said you need to, within 60 minutes of finishing your workout, get in 30 grams of protein or more to get any value from that workout at all. And so it created this idea that you need to be throwing protein shakes down within 60 minutes of your workout to actually get something. So it created this idea of where your protein timing matters. It's not true anymore, kind of. So the answer here is it depends. And what it depends on is how good you are about meeting your daily protein needs, your minimum threshold to stimulate the muscle to grow. And number two, how frequently you eat throughout the day, right? So here is where timing can matter. If you have huge gaps of time between meals because you practice intermittent fasting or because of your job, like, we knew some surgeons who, like, they're in the OR for hours all day. They can't eat. Or if you are, name whatever the reason to where you can't eat very frequently, timing within your workout is now going to matter. Now, however, and I'll explain why in a second. On the flip side of that, if you have no barriers to timing and you eat every, call it 3 to 4 hours, timing for protein intake around workouts does not matter. And the main reason is this: when you eat a dose of protein, it's gonna take on average, and there's a lot of variables in here that differentiate this time. It's gonna take on average 3 to 4 hours for that protein dose to fully process, which means when you work out, you are probably falling within the window of still processing your your most recent meal, and or probably eating again by the time that meal is done processing, to where there is always a steady stream of nutrients in the blood. So if you go back to, well, what about the intermittent fasters or the people who have no control over their time? Timing starts to matter now because you've got a massive window of times from between when you ate most recently, when your workout was, and whether there's any nutrients in the bloodstream or not. So if you eat your last meal at 7 p.m. and you work out at 7 a.m. and you plan to not begin eating for the day at noon, there is now, what is that, rough math, 12 and 5, 17 hours of no nutrients in the blood at all. So, yes, you're going to want to try to usher in some protein into the bloodstream, sometime within completing your workout between 7 and noon, even if it's just a protein shake to break the fast and start to stimulate the muscle growth. Timing can start to matter a little more then. But if you don't have any of those parameters, timing doesn't matter at all. Oh, second question, second part of that was, does protein quality matter? Yes, it does. And it matters in this way. I always picture it like a Lego kit. So if you buy a Star Wars, what's the what's the ship on Star Wars?
I don't watch Star Wars.
Oh man,
The
Millennium Falcon?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's say that you buy a man, if I'm wrong, I'm gonna look like an idiot here. Let's say that you buy a Lego kit with the Millennium Falcon as the end outcome that you are trying to build. But when you get home, you realize it's missing 25 parts. So you've got like most of it, but you can most definitely tell that it's incomplete in the sense of, like, it's kind of a janky version of a Millennium Falcon. Protein quality is basically the same thing. You are either getting a full Millennium Falcon kit or you are only getting a partial, and based on certain foods. And the most simple, easy way to classify those is whether or not those foods are animal based. Animal based always contain all of the Legos, while some non-animal based proteins are missing some of the Legos. Now, the one exception to that is one of the most notable exceptions to that. There are a couple, but one is soy. So if you get a soy protein isolate, or you eat edamame, or you eat tofu or anything like that, you're getting a full Millennium Falcon kit. So quality does matter, but again, this is where kind of knowing your individual protein needs and goals and targets can make a big difference. Question 3.
I tore my hamstring while water skiing this summer. Should I be eating more protein while I'm doing my PT work? What about amino acids or BCAA?
You ever water skied?
No. Not that I'm against it, but I would be an absolute I'd look like an idiot trying to do that.
Okay, so the question is, should I be eating more protein while I do my PT work? What about amino acids or BCAAs? So the second part of this is going to be a lot more straightforward than the first. And the first is, it depends. Should you be eating more protein while you do PT work? Depends on what your current protein intake is. If you are, again, meeting that minimum threshold that stimulates muscle growth, there is nothing to suggest that even more is going to be advantageous. So you want to make sure that you are hitting that bare minimum. And again, there's a lot of like the number that gets thrown around there out there the most is 1 gram per pound of body weight. We generally find you do not need that much to hit the minimum. The minimum is usually 1.6 grams per kilo of body weight to hit that bare minimum. And that's lean mass, not total weight. So the difference there is also going to matter quite a bit. If you are meeting that, there's nothing to necessarily suggest that you need even more unless you personally like eating more. Amino acids and BCAAs, this is going to largely depend on the quality of the protein that you're eating. So this loops in super good with question number 2, because if you're eating really quality protein, it's going to have all the Legos. So the Legos in the Millennium Falcon are amino acids, right? And BCAAs, branch chain amino acids, are just 3 of the amino acids that we tend to focus on with muscle building. They are already in foods.
What are amino acids? What do they do?
Okay, let me come back to that. So your amino acids are already in your food. If you're eating high quality proteins, you don't need supplemental amino acids and branch chain amino acids. It would be like there was a meme years ago of a water polo guy in the pool dumping a bottle of water on his head. And the meme was, this is what it's like taking BCAAs if you're already eating quality proteins. Like you just don't need it. Amino acids they are the building blocks of a protein, right? So we think of protein as being this one large thing, but in reality, when you take a piece of chicken, let's say, that chicken may have 7 grams of protein. Each of those grams is composed of amino acids that are needed to rebuild a muscle. And they're available in different, quantities and qualities based on the source. But when you look at animal-based proteins across the board, you find that they are complete. They have all of them. The number one, the gold standard of all amino acid rankings, the egg.
Egg and chicken, chicken or the egg, are they both like the purest, best form?
No, egg is the gold standard. Egg and whey.
Hmm.
Yep. So whey protein and eggs. Side rabbit trail. I don't I don't even like telling people that whey is up there because they'll often start supplementing with whey protein, thinking it's a superior protein. The downsides of whey is in the processing, right? So, your standard protein from meat, let's say, is going to take, like I said, 3 to 4 hours to completely process. Whey is done in an hour. So you see similar spikes and dips in energy as though you're eating like a piece of white bread. Really rapid increase, really sudden drop, unless it's a part of a mixed meal, which is where you're having complex carbs and vegetables and stuff like that with it. So, not necessarily I the best choice in my mind at all the time. Like I often recommend, like with our clients, ideally you'll get it from whole food, but if you are supplementing to hit your daily protein needs with a whey-based product, I would do it with only one. Like, one time. I wouldn't make multiple feedings through the day from that. Number 4.
I love ice cream, but it kills my intake. What are 3 ways I can have a healthier version?
What's your favorite ice cream?
All of the flavors. No, we I don't know, I like getting frozen yogurt more than ice cream. I notice a difference in how I feel when I do frozen yogurt, even if I fill it with all the stuff at, like, a froyo place than when I have regular ice cream. Um, but, like, actual, like, brand, the Tillamook one, vanilla bean is very good. Um, anything that they use in, like, the old time ice cream shops to make the handmade milkshakes, like, that's good. Really, the creamier, the better. It's yeah, yeah.
You might also be the only person that I know who has their own old-time milkshake maker, complete with a stainless steel cup.
Yeah.
And I have to brag on you because over the years that we've been married, you've been very generous about having, like, your girlfriends over and having a milkshake party, making milkshakes for the boys. We've done a lot of good stuff with that. What are 3 ways I can have a healthier version? Don't buy your own old-time milkshake maker. I think there's 3, so there are 3 ways that we deal with this for every kind of food, whether it's ice cream, whether it is salad dressing, whether it is mayonnaise, whether it's cheese, whether it's any of these things, right? So you have in my mind, you have 3 options. Number 1, change the type. Number 2, change the amount. Number 3, just skip it. So if you're talking about changing the type, the example you gave is a good one where it's like, I feel better with frozen yogurt than ice cream because frozen yogurt is generally almost non-fat, whereas ice cream gets most of their calories from fat. So you could have the same portion of frozen yogurt for half the calories of ice cream. That's an example of changing the type. Another good example would be like a whole piece of Colby Jack cheese on a sandwich is about 80 to 100 calories. Sargento makes a thin slice that is 40 calories, right? So you're halving the calories, but still having what you want. You're changing the type.
What was that type we used to get, and it was a little more expensive, but it was in a clear container, and it had a black screw top lid, and I feel like it had a different milk in it or something, and we used to, like, go choose the types and
Halo Top.
what's that?
Halo Top is basically you can get 200 and
It was something it was made with a different milk. It didn't say Halo Top, it was clear, and it wasn't gelato, but it was something it was not ice cream, it was something different, and it looked really fancy and expensive and had a black screw top lid,
oh,
and it was made with a different protein or something.
that's Halo Top. I'm 100% sure.
Is there a Halo Top that has an opaque lid too?
No, I think you're mixing the 2.
Okay.
I think you're mixing the packaging with the type, but that's Halo Top. Everything you're describing is Halo Top.
Then what's the stuff with the black lid?
It is like a sorbet.
Oh, yes, you're right, that's what I'm doing, okay.
Yeah, that one was Halo Top, which is basically made with much lower fat. And the whole pint, I'm sorry, is as much as half a cup of regular ice cream. So that would be a really good example of changing the type. It was good. You should get some more of that. So this is the second part. You can change the amount. If you just say, look, I love Tillamook vanilla bean, or I can't do thin slices. Give me full slices of cheese or give me death, right? Or whatever. Then change the amount. Cut that slice of cheese in half, or get a quarter cup of Tillamook vanilla bean instead of half a cup. Again, we're assuming you care about what your total intake is. If you say don't care, then send it. Eat 5 cups if you want to. But assuming that you're trying to stay within some sort of a margin, which is what it sounds like this question is, then these are the 3 ways. And then the third way is just to skip it. If it's killing your intake and it's just not worth it to you for whatever reason, then you obviously have the option to just skip it altogether. Now, people also ask us the question a lot about Is it better to have just a little bit of something? Is it better to just not have any at all? I think that is going to be dependent on your personal levels of control. And I'll use myself as an example. When I was losing weight, lost 140 pounds, there was a period of time in there where I could not quantify a little. So I just didn't have any. But as time went on and I was able to trust myself more, I was able to trust my ability to control it, then I would reintroduce it, right? And I would have smaller portions of things that I like. And that's something that we are strong advocates for, even within our program, is really teaching people how to have anything that they want while understanding what you are conceding on the other end, and that something we say a lot is dose, frequency, and type. A lot of the foods that are condemned and people say, "Oh, don't eat that, that causes all these problems." They don't. There's nothing unhealthy. A lot of what we get wrong is the dose. We either eat too much, the frequency, we eat it way too much, way too often, or the type. The type of food that we are eating is, putting us in a bad way. So, yeah, I think that those are really 3 good lenses that can give you options to choose from if you've got a certain food that you love, but you realize it's really hurting you on the intake front, that you can make some easy modifications and get it back to what you want it to be. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for another podcast. If you have questions that you want us to answer, you can email those to us at info@v2pnutrition.com. We will continue to chip away at these other questions through the end of the year, but are always interested in hearing what you guys want to hear about. So have a great week, everyone. We'll be back again in another couple of weeks with another episode.